Mikhail Massa video, like and subscribe and share. Fellow friends, the children of Africa are living a historical moment, a very important moment that will send us to think well. To think well so that we do not only give sense to our individual lives, but the lives of others around us. Because individual success has a sense when one's life is a blessing to both family and community. That is why in this writing we are trying to awaken you to existential questions, so that at the end this turn that we are going through in Africa in the current configuration we do not miss it. In the last chapter we spoke to you about the two dominant paradigms that are inside the world, but we came to a conclusion that the paradigm of the black people, the paradigm that our ancestors carried, does not exist practically anymore in the world. Because the current existing paradigm is the paradigm of the West, a paradigm that consists of the purpose of being in success in the world as the power of money, domination, and the accumulation of material wealth/goods. Everything is birthed and organized so that a small portion of the population of the planet is able to control the totality of all the material goods/wealth of the world. That is why mothers, fathers, and friends, you can see that this paradigm has dominated in totality the entire world. The West introduced us into this paradigm by force when Diego Chow came to our land around close to the 15th century in 1485 to 92 AD precisely. They entered into our space and saw that the society that we lived as our own, the accumulation of material goods/wealth, was not at the foundation or cement of our society. Our society in its initiation, and also in the paradigm that we lived in, we centered evolution of a person/people on values, spiritual values whose essential virtues were love, justice, and purity. What about the conception of the government? The social organization was revolving around values so that a person who will do his/her experience in the land of Africa, he or she should live an experience that will take him/her towards God. An experience that will take him/her into the conscience of Kimuntu, humanity. And so when the West came, they destroyed everything. Today, even in our independence of the 1960s, we entered our head and legs into something without a good understanding of the paradigm of the West, and worse of all, we were not trained or formed. You can remember that in the 60s there were not many universities in our continent of Africa, and university students were educated according to the African conception, but learnt according to the conception of the West. So inside their self-being there was a lot of syncretism, and it was very difficult for them to be able to do anything, because the fundamental law that they were using to organize the society at the time that they got independence was practically set in place in reference to the colonial model. And so, they had no notion in the area of culture, sociology, and spirituality on how they can bring to life that civilization project. To simply put it, they did not have an idea of what they got themselves into. It was already a predicted failure to enter into a different paradigm in this manner. Mothers, fathers, friends, and children of the nation of Africa, today we shall see in this chaotic situation that we are in, how will we get out of it? The people that can get us out of this problem, are you, the children of the diaspora? You, the intellectuals of the diaspora, you that live in the diaspora. Whether it is in Asia, Europe, America, it is you. If we organize ourselves and we do a good diagnosis of our problem, we can be a chance for the nation of Africa. But we can be a chance for Africa if only we understand deeply the problem of Africa, and the problem of we black people. Mothers, fathers, and friends, you the children of the diaspora, many among you have become medical doctors, engineers, professors of universities, qualified personnel, nurses, and many other professions in the Western world. In regard to your various professions, I will give a small history of our diaspora, and then you will come to see that if we do not change our paradigm or do not change our way of seeing the world, it will be difficult for us, despite our various professions, to be a blessing for Africa. It will be difficult for us to be a blessing for Africa because for thousands of years Africa was in the vision of organizing a society that was not necessarily based on the accumulation of material wealth. And so, when the foreigners came, they destroyed that social tissue, they destroyed the conception of a family, they destroyed our vision of the world through the Western schools that we have attended, and they reorganized our economies so that we can become extroverted economies. And you can see today we always speak within the speeches of exportation of primary materials, and every time we speak of the riches of a nation, never do we speak of the riches of a nation in terms of human resource, but we always talk of resources in terms of primary materials because they formatted our economies, so it can be the supplier of primary materials to the Western world. Even the entire concept of economy is only based on the extraversion of primary materials. They reformed our mental mind and we are completely reformed, and so even the economic science that we have done, even the medicine that we have done, it is founded on scientific research of things that are possible in Europe, but we have never done a nomenclature of our jungles, forests, so we can know all the active substance that is in our soils. Our ancestors began this, but today an African doctor is complex towards the things of our ancestors, not knowing there are strong active principles in the way our ancestors walked the earth. But he has studied the world in the vision of the West. It is very difficult in this manner to be able to go far. They have given us even a new way of administering our societies which is not in conformity to our cultures and is not in conformity to the vision of the world in the way we used to conceive it. And they installed inside the soil of Africa a new political class and new management class in all areas, in the scientific level, political level, and spiritual level. A political class that has foolishly adopted their ideas, but do not know that the Western vision was in service of metropolis. The Western vision was placed inside Africa, so that Africa can be the third world and be the periphery to light up the metropolis. So, you can see that the political elite that they are forming currently is a political elite that is deprived of vision. It's a political elite that does not even understand how the West have formatted the state, formatted the vision concept of their world, and even the spiritual elite filled with imported religions. Islam religion, its temple is in Mecca, and the Christians from Africa are going to pray to the wall of Israel. Others would go to Israel to access the olive oil of Israel and then come to place it on the head of people, saying that the oil is a blessing. You see that a black person has no intelligence. A black person thinks that the lands of other people are blessed, but the lands of other people are good because those people are the ones that took care of their own lands by working it and developing it. They are focused on doing business and do not give a damn about the walls of Jericho or the wall of Lamentations, and all those oils. And the people making the oils of. Some of their bosses are homosexuals, but because a black person has no intelligence when he is going to Mecca, he thinks he has done something special. You would see even in the area of politics, when he gets to the Western world and is received by a European leader, he becomes complex, and African people who are behind him will see that this person has done something very important because he has been received by Obama, Francois Hollande, George Bush, and all sorts of people. So sad, look where we the children of Africa have entered into mental extroversion. We have centered a conscience that is turned towards the exterior that comes from cultural syncretism, and in that way, it is very difficult for us to be free if we do not carry out a good lecture of history and take a good vision of our nations. Mothers, fathers, relations, the consequences have become serious, and that is black. The man has lost his identity. Black man is completely destroyed. Africa is destroyed. Africa no longer has the posterity of development. The West has placed puppet leaders in power in all African states to supervise the interests of the West inside Africa. So, you can see that all the people that will come inside our nations, their work is only to supervise the interests of the Western powers inside Africa. And in that way, it is very difficult for us to develop and give a sense to our lives inside the world. But something happened that was nice. It was something bad, but we can capitalize on it. During the time of the first African presidents right after independence, many children of Africa left Africa for a better life abroad. We left for many reasons. Different people have different reasons why they left the country, and now let me tell you why the diaspora can be a very good chance for the Africa. Part 2, a chance for Africa. Many children of Africa during the time of the first African presidents went out of the country. Some went to Australia, China, Russia, Europe, and America for studies. There were many reasons that sent us out of our country, and it was painful. Many left for educational purposes and studied the knowledge of the West. They learned the knowledge of foreigners, some learned petrochemistry, some how to fix finance of nations, etc. The West built schools to teach their kids their paradigm, and the African nationals who fled their countries also got involved in it. But you will see that when they returned to their countries, they came out as professors of big universities, they were advisors in big political cabinets, but nothing of value or worth has happened. Nothing of worth happened, and it is not that they were fools, but what they learnt, they did not study their world. Yes, you gained independence, but you once were colonized, and were slaves, and they formatted you for over 5 centuries to work in service of foreigners, but now that you have done an uprising and said no, we are independent and we will not work in service of foreigners. But when you come to Europe again, they taught you in their schools how to work in service of foreigners. And when you return to the country, you see, you will just do nothing. So the knowledge that they learnt, they have not done anything with it. You will see that a person will talk big inside the university, but when you put him in a position of responsibility he is not able to deploy his knowledge. And we are saying, oh no, maybe it is the political will, maybe it is this way, but it is the entire Africa. It is everywhere. Look at Zuma. If the Western people were not in South Africa it would have been difficult. But he is an educated man. And what does this all mean? The Western education of a black person has not helped him. But is it necessary? Yes. Because we have understood how the West functions, how the West is conserving his paradigm, so that he can dominate the world. But it is not with this instrument of domination that we can succeed to emancipate ourselves in the land of Africa. So, there were a lot of reasons. All that came back they have not done anything, and those that remained here a life of value is not there. Very rare have they emerged in the European society, and even that little emergent in European society has not helped Africa. It is an individual emergent, and that emergent in the European society will not help his children. They will continue to be in difficult situations and will always be considered as foreigners, even if they get the nationality of the nations where they are in. Mothers, fathers and relations, many also who came, they became political refugees, true refugees and fake refugees. We will not go into that, but in the category of diasporas many became political refugees, others became refugees in pain. They were forced to change their names to be accepted. Some Congolese became Angolans, other Angolans became Chadians, and so on and so forth. You will see that he studied and had his diploma or license in the School of the West. He was Mr. Mwanankasi, now he is Mr. Matungulu, he was Ojandaka, and he will come back and is known as Anananga. He is taking the money for social assistance. There are many in Belgium, France, Canada that do that, but a worthy life so that they can contribute or study in Western schools that is not even doing anything. It became impossible. They entered into different skills that are labor intensive so they can live. So, you can see a diaspora is in a situation that is very difficult. And those that were true and real political refugees, they returned back to the country, but with the return to the country they entered in the same logic of patricracy, Western democracy, and have not done anything of value inside the world. Many diasporas here, others have changed their nationalities. They said, let us try to integrate into the society of the West to enable us to at least buy some houses and let us stay well with our kids here. They entered this situation and many changed their nationalities. They became Vietnamese, Australians, Eskimos, Belgians, and became all sorts of nationalities. You will remember there was a time here in the West 20 years back when one got a foreign nationality, he will call his relations back home and organize a big party. It was like God has helped him. There were other churches where the pastor will testify, see how God has helped this person, he has got a Belgian nationality. So, you can see that the stairs of success became inverted. To get the nationality of a foreigner became a grace of the Almighty. It became a blessing if you got the nationality. You would call your entire family and you will party, you have become French. It is like when a French person goes to India and asks for the Indian nationality, and when the Indians will give him that nationality, he will call his French friends back in France and praise the Father above, thank you, I am now Indian. So, you can see how we entered in this pain, and in the pain the labor-intensive skills that were even an instrument of humiliation, it became not only a material blessing that it has integrated you into the society for sure, but it also became a blessing inside the church. See the level of loss of the children of Africa. And many who got the nationality with that mentality, they forgot their country. They even came to say that country, let us sell it, but when pain caught up with them, then we came to realize that they made a mistake and shouldn't have to spoke in that manner. Many who didn't get the Western nationality and others who were not able to integrate in the European society. They were just doing some businesses, many started to sell cars, others started selling onions, they opened shops inside Africa to sell the clothes of the West, to sell buttons, they were importing water from Canada, and they made supermarkets to sell cheese that came from cows of the West. They sold milk that came from genetic modified organisms, and when a person who has remained in Africa, when she eats French fries from Europe, she says God has helped him, her. When a person earns money, he will only eat McDonald's food and he will drink water that has come from Australia, France, not knowing that water is being recycled from dumplings/excretion zones. Look at where the black man has completely lost his way. Look at where our diaspora has really entered into disaster. And few people who have succeeded to eat a few African dishes in the West and have been given the opportunity by the West to eat their own African dishes say we are well, but the perspective of future is not there. When a French goes to a foreign country, say for example in Australia, but his country is doing well. When an American goes to a foreign country, and when he returns to his country, it is a joy for him to return to his country. But today, if we are told to return to our country, take a Congolese/South Africa Zambian Nigerian and place him inside an airplane and try to return him back to his country, he will cry, he will fall on the ground, he will see at his funeral, and he will see that his life has come to an end. Look at how we have become mothers, fathers, and relations. And this kind of diaspora cannot be a chance or a success for the development of our nations of Africa, because the mentality of this diaspora is not well. The mental and the mindset of this diaspora has not learned or accessed the world well. Part 3: What Black diasporas can learn from other diasporas. If you look at Jews for example, when they went to the diaspora, what did they do? They also went in pain. Titus by 70 AD came and overpowered them, killed them, and spread them all over the world. The Jews' diaspora did not only come out by 70 AD, the Jew diaspora existed even in the time of Babylon, in the time of the power of Babylon. During the time when Persia was reigning in the world, this diaspora was spread all over across the world. But what did they do when they left? They went out with their gods everywhere. They built their synagogues, so they can teach their children their cultures, so they can teach their children in what manner they saw the world, so that they can teach their children their religion, their ancestors like Abraham, Isaac, who prayed to their God. So that these children, despite being in pain, and were being taught the knowledge of foreigners nonetheless, they should not forget their culture, they should not forget their land. And today, when they came back to David Ben-Gurion in the year 1948, they came back and built their land according to their cultures, and according to their roots. They conserved their languages, they conserved the names of the ancestors, even when this child Yehoshua, when he came to tell the truth, they refused, and did not want to change their ways. All those people who go to Israel, you will see that they meet the Jews praying to the gods of their ancestors and their roots. They have made touristic places for African fools, who are going to insert money in their places, but they know the true use of these places. Instead, they have conserved their cultures and they are teaching their kids behaviors and clothings of their ancestors. Look at the Muslims. They also left, Moroccans left, and many of them left their lands, but in leaving their conserved roots, they have built mosques here in Europe so that they can build their children according to their roots. We can see their vision, the conservation of language, the conservation of names, the conservation of culture, and the conservation of the cosmos religion of the world paradigm of their ancestors. And you will see their children's names, Abu Bakr, Muhammad, their children have the name of Nabil, names like Shariah. You will see that their female children have names linked to their roots so that they can show themselves as a people. See a wise diaspora. Take the Indians, the same thing. Take the Chinese, the same thing. A Chinese would never go to a foreign religion. And take even the West, that did something that was really horrible. They knew that what they did was only to dominate the world, but wherever they go they are conserving their cultural centers. They conserve their roots. They are teaching their kids in schools that are driving their history, that is driving their religion, that is driving their way of seeing the world. See, wise people. That is why you always see their countries are always prospering. Not only that their countries are in affinity to their religion, to their roots, to their ancestors, you will see even in nursery school they will teach their children only according to their roots. And that diaspora, wherever he goes, he will only eat according to his roots. A French in America will drink the wine of Bordeaux, an American will drink things that come from his country, and they are trying to conserve their way of seeing the world. Mothers, fathers, relations, look on our side. Our diaspora is a disgrace and shame. We have built churches everywhere in order to drive Christianity, and worse, in a bad way, praying to the ancestors of foreigners. You will see an African pastor trying to drive this religion. Even if he is in Congo/South Africa/Nigeria, he will teach in French, English, Portuguese so that someone else should translate for him in local language, but his entire congregation do not know how to speak French, English, Portuguese. His congregation knows local languages, and he too knows these local languages, but he will prefer to teach in English or French or Portuguese, so that when he says Jesus, he will feel the anointing. Nonsense. Look at the curse that has come upon our diaspora. But instead of diaspora, are a people who, when a country is going through a hard time, when a country is being colonized or dominated, when a country is occupied culturally, religiously, spiritually, politically, diaspora will conserve the culture of his ancestors, but our diaspora conserves absolutely nothing. Our diaspora, when a person begins to see a bit clearly in the intellectual level, in the material level, he will not even want to meet with his black friends, he will enter the train/metro. And if he sees where his brother is sitting, he will prefer to sit close to foreign person. Our diaspora has become complex, not knowing that a diaspora is a chance for the nation. All diasporas are the ones that repaired their nations. The Chinese diaspora repaired their country because they have cultural harmony. But our diaspora's head and legs are not known. We have entered into the things of foreigners. Our diaspora, you will see person will even change their manner of speaking. He thinks that development is imitation of an Indian, development is the imitation of a Chinese. When he goes to China, he will carry the things of China. When he goes to India, he will bring the things of India. But a French or an American, wherever he is bringing things from his country. African diaspora, you are a chance for Africa. But we need to change our ways of seeing the world. We need to change. You are a doctor, you are great engineers, you have studied high classes of all kinds. If you continue with this individualistic vision, your children will be in pain. You, for example, have gained, but maybe your child will not gain. The chances you have got here in Europe, will your children get the same chance? So, the chance that you gain here, you need to work it so you can make people aware, to make the diaspora aware and their children, so that we can go back to ancestral values. We need to learn about our ancestors, how they lead the world, so that we can make our synagogues, and we can make places where we can protect our ancestralism. But see, the place where we plan to build our societies, so much noise and fighting with mentalities like this is a South Africa, this is Nigeria, this is Congo, and even among ourselves we are divided. You can see that there is no knowledge. We have only become people of pain and have separated, but it needed that in the places our children are learning. The schools of the West, as matter of fact, we have no choice, but we use our cultural centers as a place where we will insert in our kids the knowledge of our history to gain an African conscience. Mothers, fathers, and relations, it is really painful, but today we need to organize ourselves, restore our political models. Go to the restaurants of Chinese, you will see that even the decorations are of Chinese culture. But go to the African restaurants, you will see total disorder. Even some idols will not put it, and it will not even attract anyone. Why? Because there is a lack of knowledge. African diaspora, today I have come before you. You are a chance, you are in mission, but you are not aware of your mission. Your mission is not to assimilate with a European, your mission is not to assimilate with Americans, your mission is to profit on this little good life you have here, to enter in the roots of your lineage. Learn how your ancestors were, and try to do a great lobby, not to go and ask, a lobby where you will place knowledge of what politics you will need to develop to get away from the religion of foreigners. Spirituality is universal, but religion is cultural, I repeat. Spirituality is universal, but religion is cultural, I repeat. Spirituality is universal, the spiritual values, but how to plant it in different people depends on the history of those people and in their temporal space. You cannot practice the Christian religion by founding yourself on Jew ancestors, you cannot practice the Muslim by religion by founding yourself on the people who built it in Saudi Arabia, and it is foolishness. It is the lack of knowledge. Every person needs to understand how they can construct the world in the mental level and also the astral level, so that he can work that spirituality and plant it according to his roots. Science needs to first understand the state of natural space. Mathematics is universal, but practical science is cultural. It depends on the temporal needs and function of the history of a people. See where the African diaspora, one thing is missing from him, the return to roots. If we return to our roots, then we will sit down and see how they have done to the world, we will know our history, our paradigm, and we will know how to conserve our world, we will know how to make junction with other brothers and sisters who remained it back home, so that we can build a strong civilization. So that tomorrow our children cannot be assimilated with other cultures, but be able to return to the land of Africa, so that they can also construct a civilization that will make them proud of the nation of Africa. Mikhail Massa video, like and subscribe and share.